Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Happy Friday, Mike.
Happy Friday, Phil, and welcome on board, everybody, to another episode of Random Waypoints. Glad to be here, and I'm sure we've got a lot to cover. So, Phil, let's get into it.
Mike, I know you saw Justin Timberlake's video of him being arrested in his DUI, right?
Yeah.
Watching Justin Timberlake in that DUI arrest video, he shouldn't have been driving. He was struggling to stand straight, trying to explain who he is, and the young cop never heard of him. Mike, what did you think watching that play out?
I thought it was kind of funny because you're right. Justin Timberlake is so past gone at this point. The younger cop didn't even know who he was. He looked like he was kind of like, stoned out of his mind. I thought he was a little bit. He was pretty laid back.
Well, they say that alcohol brings out who you really are. So at least we know he's not violent because he was still, he stayed calm. But yes, boy, was he out of it.
He was out of it.
One of the things that it exposed to me that I think people know already is how narcissistic stars are. Because he kept saying about the tour, like people outside of who
knew who he was. Yeah.
But he was saying the tour, and I'm sure amongst the people he's around, everything is about the tour. So he kept thinking when I say the tour, it was such a big deal. And they're like, what? We don't even know who the hell you are.
Yeah. It was pretty funny.
What part stood out more to you, Mike? The sobriety test or him trying to explain himself?
Well, I mean, it was just kind of it was amusing in a sort of a sick way. Let's just be honest. I mean, it could have happened to anybody. I mean, at least he wasn't a dick about it.
No, really. Couldn't happen to everybody. Not everybody drinks and drive.
This is true. This is true. Well, and I'd argue it was maybe something other than drinking. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't give anybody any slack on drinking and driving, especially when you have the means like he has where...
Yeah, exactly. He should be being driven around anyways. I mean, come on.
That's usually a sign you were coming from somewhere doing something that you shouldn't have been doing.
You weren't supposed to be. Yep. Amen to that.
Mike, you got Alan Ritchson out there riding with his kids on his motorcycle. And a guy runs into the street, shoves him off his bike, blocks him from leaving, and keeps pushing it. And now people are debating his reaction to that. At some point, especially with your sons watching, you're not just allowed to defend yourself. You kind of have to, right, Mike?
Yeah. That was kind of a weird incident as well. I mean, I don't know what it was. Does it go in threes? Is there going to be another one? But it's like, I mean, he didn't have much of a choice. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Well, the thing that popped out to me was not the incident of who's right or wrong. I know the area they were in. I know the demographic of people in that area. And that's a typical dude in the neighborhood. When you're in those kind of neighborhoods, the guys are Karens. And this guy was a Karen. And the thing about Karens are they feel very comfortable being like that because society has given them a security blanket. And I'm just going to say it just how I'm thinking it. I hope this don't
good. Here we go. Fire it up.
You have a lot of beta feminine men who think they are alpha males because of that comfort blanket. They think that they fit under that blanket too. And you'll have guys like him that feel comfortable walking up to a 6'3", 275-pound muscle-bound dude because they think they under the same protections too. So that's what stuck out to me is that this punk really thought he was standing on something.
Yeah.
And he deserved every punch he got, in my opinion.
Yep.
Does being a public figure change how much restraint you're expected to show, Mike?
That's a mixed bag of question. I don't want to say this, but yes. Yes, I do believe so. I think, unfortunately, as a public figure, and the more public that you are, the more people that know who you are. If you, particularly if you hold office or famous in some way, you're held to a higher standard, and that's part of the price of being where you're at.
I kind of agree. I kind of disagree. You're a human being. You should have the same rights as everybody else. But when you're in that position, it's a liability thing more so than etiquette or ethics or morals. It's simply a liability thing. You have more to lose usually than the other person, and you got to bite the bullet sometimes to preserve your wealth. That's
Yeah, but you also have a lot of people. You regardless of whether you chose to or not, you influence a lot of people. So
Yes.
with that carries a certain level of awareness, and in my opinion, it carries a little bit of just, I don't know if you want to say moral obligation or whatever, to just to not influence somebody that is less intelligent or less fortunate than you are to do something stupid. You know what I mean? Don't set a good example, I guess, is the way I guess I would want to say it.
So put yourself in his shoes, Mike. If someone puts hands on you first in front of your kids, what message do you send if you don't do anything?
Well, like I said, that's a mixed bag, because you're right. Because he's an quote influencer, if he doesn't do anything, that doesn't send the right message either, right? So there's a balance somewhere in there, because if he does nothing, then you're sending a message, like you said earlier. You're being a pansy.
I agree. I didn't use the word pansy, but we'll use that one. So, Mike, a California jury just hit Meta and YouTube with millions in damages, saying their platforms were built to hook kids. This woman was on them all day starting at 6 and 9 and says it fueled her mental health issues. So, Mike, I thought we had zero tolerance of grooming kids. These companies knew exactly what their design was doing to kids. Why are they allowed to still do business?
All right, I'm going to take a different approach here, Phil. And we're only like, I don't know, a couple minutes into the podcast, and I'm already going to drop the F-bomb. Okay, I'm going on a rant. Rant warning, put it across the screen. No. When in America, are people going to take fucking responsibility for themselves? This is a ginormous pet peeve of mine. I could go on for the rest of the hour. So this child, I'm going to call it a child. So the person that is suing is now an adult. Okay, so this happened a number of years ago, and is claiming body dysmorphia. She was led to be depressed and I don't know, was going to commit suicide. Who knows? A whole line of stuff, right? Because she chose to spend all this time on social media. And because social media has filters and you can take perfect angles and photos and all this stuff, she felt like she was in a competition with her friends and others out there. And how many followers do I have? Look, this goes on with all of us. Okay. By the way, this is not limited to just children, right? Social media is designed to be addictive, to suck in whether you're a child, you're an adult, or anybody else. That's what it's designed for. Now, this is Mike's opinion now. Big warning. You saw at the top of the podcast here. My opinion is that, I'm as you know, and I've spoken about this many times, I have to take a libertarian approach on this. I firmly believe that people need to take responsibility for themselves. And in the case of a child, the first point of contact to take responsibility for that child is their parents. Okay. And I don't know that Meta or Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or X or Snapchat or any of these other entities, let's be clear, and I think you outlined this on another podcast, Phil. Companies exist to make money. Okay. That's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. and however they make money is what they do. So for us to sit here and beat around the bush and say, well, it's the company's responsibility for making sure children don't get hurt. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. Not their responsibility. That's not why a company exists. A company exists to make money. So the problem is where does this end? This reminds me of when I was growing up in the 80s, and we had Ozzy Osbourne and lyrics and satanic verses in music and lyrics, and they wanted to put ratings on everything, which by the way they did. And it's the same old shit on a different day, right? It's the United States being a nanny state, and nobody wants to take responsibility for anything. So I find it offensive, to be quite honest, that these companies were sued and lost, because where were the parents? Why was this kid on social media 20 hours a day? Well, I mean, I'm not naive. I get it. Kids are going to sneak around. They're going to get around fences that you put up and whatever else. But at the end of the day, if we had some semblance, this is a societal problem, right? So Facebook did not create the trend to make filters, and as an example, to make your face look better. Facebook didn't make. They might have made the filter, but they didn't make the need for it. Society said, hey, I want to look better. Hey, I want to compete with the next, you know what I mean? So as a society, this became a fad, right? You watch on TikTok, and every so often there's some new fad comes around and everybody jumps on the bandwagon. TikTok is not creating the fad. The fad is created, as we were speaking in the last segment of the podcast, by somebody that has influence, by a content creator or a famous person or an actor or something has created an idea, and people go, oh, I want to be like that person, or I want that. So we as a society create this problem. I find it very difficult to blame this on the business. The business is trying to make money. They want you to be addicted to their service. Don't get me wrong. But if you're gonna put rules in place, suing them and then charging them a bunch of money, which by the way, I think they got fined $3 million, which is like absolutely fucking nothing. They made that before they had tea in the morning. But so maybe that's sending a point too. But look, the government, and I'm not suggesting I am in support of this, but if the government wanted to, they could, put an age on it then. You're not allowed to be on social media till you're 15 or whatever. But like at the end of the day, this is a parental problem. This is a child problem. And I'll stop talking now. I don't know what you think, Phil, but
I kind of agree with you and I kind of don't. I have 3 different positions that all disagree with each other.
Okay.
I do agree that a company their main objective is to make money, and they should pursue that in this great capitalistic world we live in. I agree with that totally. And I agree that parents should be responsible for their children and what they intake. But those ideas are in a vacuum. The reality is that no matter how you police your children, they'll still see porn. They'll still talk to their friends when they shouldn't about things that they shouldn't.
Yep.
But if a parent is parenting, there will be limits to how much of that they have. So I don't think just being involved in the internet and watching it is bad. It's how much you consume. So if the parent is being involved, they can limit it. I just don't think that they can totally get rid of it. Now, on the side of the business, I look at it like, let's forget that it's social media. It's a knife. Okay, when you buy a knife, you're responsible for getting cut. But if I made a knife where the handles fall off, then it's my fault. So this is where the handles fall off. You are pursuing a child and in a way that is predatory, that I used the word grooming. And that just should be a no-go. So yeah, the parents need to be parenting, but this is dangerous. You're very well aware of the powers of an algorithm, and they're throwing that algorithm at a child.
But how do you change it? So what do you do? What? I'm Facebook. What do I do? What am I supposed to do to do this?
You said it, and it won't happen. And it's starting to happen in other countries. In the last few months, a lot of countries have passed laws stating that no social media before you're 16. Mm-hmm. I think it would have to literally be something like that, where there's a federal law against the consumption of internet and social media by anyone under 16, unless it's for educational purposes or supervised by an adult or something like that.
See, I'm okay with that. The problem I have, and this is where I'm always going to fall on the other side. The last thing I want is government control and control over these products to protect the weakest person. In other words, the lowest common denominator. So as an example, if Facebook invented a filter to make your and I's face look better, but we can handle it, I don't think it should be taken away because it's taking away from you and me. It could be taken away from a child that doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but what I'm always concerned with is the government overreach, particularly when it comes to the court, and they're fining them. So next thing you know, Meta's got to back off and say, "Oh shit, we can't be involved in this." Remember, the definition of social media is that they're a platform. The content largely is being created by the users, right? Mm-hmm. So they're not really necessarily creating the content; they're hosting the content. But those kind of things, I don't want stuff taken away. Like I don't want to create an entire society. This is my fear in the United States in general. Is the United States is creating a society that is targeted at the lowest common denominator. So whoever's the dumbest person, whoever's the most challenged, it's like let's have a sporting event and give a participation award to everybody. I mean, that's the problem. I don't want to go down that road, and that's what I see with this kind of stuff. So the fact that this one child, and I know I'm not saying it's just one child, but the fact that this one child and or family that was dysfunctional or whatever should not put a bunch of restrictions on other people that do not have the problem, meaning, i.e., adults or quite frankly, to be totally honest with you, I'm sure there's plenty of children and plenty of families out there that have control mechanisms in place that are not experiencing this. So I don't see punishing, quote, society as a whole to fix a problem of the lowest hanging, dumb fruit. So, and I'm not meaning to discredit this person, but I mean, did you read some of the?
They deserve to be discredited.
I mean, read some of the testimony. The person was on the internet 20 hours a day. I mean, what the fuck was going on in that house? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, this is what I hate, particularly. This is one of the things I hate about California. The greatest. Look, I looked at a chart the other night. I don't know why this is off tangent, but I looked at they rated the 50 United States on your freedoms. Okay. Your general freedom by state, and when freedom, I mean economic, social, it covered a whole expanse of different things, and I'm always harping on California. By the way, California has ranked the second worst state in the country for the last, 15 years or more, as you have the least amount of freedom, you have the least amount of everything. The worst state, by the way, in the country is New York. New York was number 1, California's number 2, and Oregon is number 3. I think Hawaii was 4. But anyways, there's your worst states. But I notice a lot of this legislative stuff comes out of those states, and they want to blanket it. And we see this in Colorado as an example. I've harped on the podcast before about how I feel like Colorado, as an overlander, is passé at this point. Like, it's one of the states I almost don't want to go to anymore because it's become, I just call it for what it is. It's become unfun, right? There's less places to camp. There's more restrictions on stuff. There's more laws on things. God forbid you're driving a military vehicle. Like, there's just all sorts of shit. And that spreads from California, in my opinion. Like, it's just, so not to be, and that's not off tangent, because a lot of this legislative stuff surrounding Meta and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all these is legislated out of those states. I call them the not fun states.
Yeah, they have incredible power. I mean, really, the whole electric car industry would not exist if California didn't exist.
Right.
A lot of there are parts on your vehicle that you don't even need because of California.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Mike, Bark River Knives is getting called out right now over allegations they used imported steel while still selling knives as made in USA. And as someone who's actually tries to buy American, that bothers me. But it also feels familiar, like watching Heinz bottles getting refilled or bars swapping cheap liquor into premium bottles. So at this point, should we even be surprised this is still happening? I see it all the time, Mike.
Some things are stricter. So as a New Englander, and I know you're going to appreciate this because it's one of your favorite states, Vermont was one of the earliest places to crack down very hard on this. When it says made in Vermont, you know it's made in Vermont, like maple syrup. This started with the maple syrup in particular, and dairy for ice cream and for Ben and Jerry's and et cetera. But like when it says, when you get a bottle of maple syrup and it says made in Vermont, that means it came from a tree in Vermont, that it was processed in Vermont, that it went into the bottle in Vermont. You know what I mean? So they got their handle around it. And yeah, in America, we've lost sight of this by and large, like Apple. I got Apple products all over here. I'm on an Apple screen right now. You know, everybody equates Apple with American, but we all know that, I mean, there's not much about Apple that's in America, right?
Right.
So now they were one of the first people to get super creative with their packaging, and on their package was like, it was always like what does it say? Invented in California or whatever.
Inspired in Cupertino, California.
Yeah, exactly, or some nonsense. Yeah, made by small children that are starving in China. That's what it should say on the box, but it doesn't say that. So, I mean, it's a feel-good thing, right? I mean, it's all about feeling good. And the knife thing is no different. You're feeling good because you're buying American-made, which, by the way, emulates that it's high quality, that you're supporting local, all this stuff. But in reality, that was made also by 12-year-old children in some factory. The steel, some guy was sweating the bullets in a factory in Bangladesh.
Mike, this bothers me on so many levels. Like, this is a Bark River knife. Okay. I have about 35 of their knives. Okay. If you know anything about their knives, I could, what I paid for this knife, I could buy 3 quality, really nice knives.
Yep.
I'm paying the extra money because in my mind, I was saying, well, these guys that work there, they are able to do 8 hours a day. They're able to make a payment on a home, make a payment on a car, have kids, have a life. And I'm helping for that to happen. So that's what bothers me about that, is that me trying to be patriotic, me trying to show love to other American citizens is backfiring on me. Mm-hmm. I've been taken advantage of for caring. And it seems as though everything that I try to care about geopolitically or just America-wise, it keeps backfiring on me. Because I'm going to take this even a step further, Mike. You know, I've been doing this media thing for a long time. I've followed around different people, work for different companies. And this is happening in the overland industry.
Oh God, don't get me going.
I'm not going to tell on you, but this person's probably scared right now.
Okay.
But like, I know somebody who right before COVID, they bought a whole bunch, and they matter of fact, they got together with some other companies and bought this huge amount of steel from China,
Okay.
and they profess to be an American-made company.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of companies like that in the overland industry. I'm
Yeah.
not going to mention products because people will start figuring out who I'm talking
Well,
about.
it's even worse than that, Phil. I mean, you're seeing which good for it, but you're seeing companies that are going out of business in the overland space because they've been basically because of the tariffs and all the other nonsense that we've got going on in the world economic stage. But it comes to find out that you're buying a rooftop tent, as an example, that is heavily branded. I'm going to make it up so people don't know who I'm talking. Everybody knows who I'm talking about, anyways. But I'm going to make it up that Idaho born and Idaho rooftop tents, and there's nothing Idaho about the thing. It's 100% made in China, 100% somebody else's tent, 100% was slapped with a badge. After the fact, after it was shipped to the United States, somebody slapped an Idaho tent badge on the thing and then called it a made in USA, made in Idaho, real red-blooded American rooftop tent. Bullshit. And then now all of a sudden you hear the whining starts on social media. Hey, we're going out of business. We couldn't support, we're not whatever, the tariffs are impact. And then and all of a sudden my head spun around like it was on a yo-yo. What do you mean the tariffs? What the hell does that got to do with your made in Idaho? All this other, right? And you're like, wait. And then you come to find out, there's nothing made in Idaho. Shit, we don't even have an office in Idaho. And by the way, I'm not. This is not Idaho. By the way, I'm making this up. But it is another state. But this is true, and this is a true story. And then the company went out of business, and they're not the only ones. There's a bunch of them.
Mike. I'm talking about all throughout the industry.
It's totally
bumpers.
And you see this. It's one of my frustrations. Quite frankly, with the trend that Overland Expo has gone with the vendor section, because what you've seen over the years is the originators have simply been copied and rebadged, and then people figured out, well, hey, this originator started making stuff in California, and we could probably make something as good, but we can make it in China. And then we can rebadge it with something and bring it over here and sell it right down the street for them, for $200 less. And so then all of a sudden you're looking around, you're scratching your head going, how come there's 62 rooftop tent or 75, trailer companies here? Well, because it's all the same shit repackaged. And quite frankly, it's disingenuous, most of it.
Mike, I would have a little more respect for if, like, you had a company, right, and you designed something for the overland industry and it was amazing, and another guy, like, backward, what do you call it?
Who are you talking about? Yeah, a person.
When a person takes your invention and they backwards
re-engineer it.
Re-engineer.
Backwards engineering.
I would give you more credit for backwards re-engineering something, but these guys aren't even on that level. You've got guys that literally they'll go to Overland Expo, they'll see something, they'll buy the product, and then they'll ship it to China.
Yep.
And China
make this. Run it through AI, do a design on it. Here's all the measurements because I measured it while I was standing at Expo, and make it exactly like this, identical.
Because there is an art and a skill to doing that, and some of these guys don't even have that skill. They're just stealing.
Yeah, they're just stealing it. Yeah, it's been a frustration of mine. It's that you're talking about two frustrations of mine. One, people that do that. There was just an article. I won't get into names on that one either. There was an article. I think it was on Expedition Portal. There was a company, or there was some bickering back and forth about swiped product. Trying to remember who it was swiped from. Very credible company. I don't know if it was AT Overland or somebody swiped something. what was a box, something that you put. I don't remember what it was, but here's the problem. So it's two pet peeves of mine. One, be creative. If don't steal somebody else's shit, and then two, obviously, this is why I can't stand China. Never have. China is, and no matter what we talk about and when we come to a trade deal with them, they're not trustworthy. They're always trying to screw you, and China does not respect intellectual property. They're never gonna happen. So even as the worst of the worst scum is the Americans that are utilizing that and then having the Chinese make it for them, because they're certainly willing to do it.
And then that same company, they'll make yours, but then out the other door, they'll make their own copy that's cheaper than yours.
Exactly. So you can't. There's no trust involved in any of this, and this is the problem. So yeah.
So Mike, I'm holding on, but I'm holding on by a string to this Buy America thing. I spend a lot of extra money, sometimes double and triple on things, just for that USA. I'm holding on to a string because now I'm just looking around at things that I cherish, that I'm proud of, and I'm like, this might not be made in America, and I'm just a sucker. I'm just a sucker.
I'm not a big fan of regulation and that kind of thing, but I will say, and this is going back to what I said about Vermont. I'm okay with honesty. So if the knife company said, if they said, look, this was handcrafted, made in America, with using some content of foreign steel or whatever, it's just truth in advertising, then I'd be okay with it, as long as you're honest, because then you can make your own educated decision whether or not that's acceptable to you or not.
And Mike, people love that. If the CEO of a company, he could do the commercial itself and say, look, it costs I can't afford to buy American steel. So
it's not available. Maybe it's not available. Like, who knows? Whatever.
I'm making this affordable to you by doing this. And men will respect that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's similar to, like, if you look at a new car, on the thing they put on the window now, it tells you what contents, where it comes from. The engine comes from Germany. The transmission comes from here. There's 26% of the contents come from Turkey, whatever. I mean, it's being honest, right? So, you're looking at a Subaru. It kind of was Japanese-ish, but not really, because, half the car came from Turkey. But yeah, but at least they're being honest, I mean, it's disclosed.
And it's not just, I skipped over to the Overland community, Mike, but it's everything. It's even food. I don't think it's been 30 days where they did some kind of legal something because there was illegal beef coming into America from Australia and it was being claimed to be American beef.
Yep.
The farmers had to complain.
Yep.
It's literally anything.
It's everywhere.
You pay money for.
Yep.
There's some BS.
Yep.
Airports are turning into 4-hour choke points because TSA agents aren't getting paid, calling out in massive numbers, and some are literally selling plasma just to survive, while politicians argue over funding. Mike, are we normalizing crisis conditions as just part of the system?
Unfortunately, we're using it as blackmail back and forth between the political parties. Yeah, I mean, those kind of things, in my opinion, should not be affected by a political drama. I think they're really fighting over. I think it's tied to, if I'm not mistaken, it's tied to ICE and tied to funding for the border or something, and it's all tied in one big thing. I don't know, but the whole thing is nonsensical. And both sides are guilty of this. Then you get the Republican side sends in ICE agents to the airport. And from what I've been seeing in the news, they're just basically walking around because they're not trained for the job. So what are they going to do? They're going to walk around.
But Mike, at what point does asking someone to work without pay become exploitation instead of duty?
In my opinion, the first 10 seconds.
Exactly.
I mean, come on. That's bullshit. Would you work for free?
Do you know, like every other day, somebody has brought up the idea in the House and the Senate that they shouldn't get paid and for them to agree on it. And every time it gets turned down, that's disgusting.
Dude, I'd argue that
You're
the
like,
House of the Senate should never get paid.
I got to get paid. I don't care what's going on in this world. That's what they basically telling you.
Yep. Yep.
Should elected officials continue receiving pay while frontline?
No. I'll take it a step further. I'm not sure elected officials should get paid. Not for first of all, not one of those guys in those organizations that you just mentioned, the Senate or the House. None of them need to be paid.
Right.
I mean, think about it. They're all wealthy. None of them need this money. It's about to load of shit. So
they all come in middle class. They leave out 1%.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Mike, since the conflict in Iran, talk of a draft has surfaced. I've been hearing a lot about that. If the draft came back tomorrow, would this generation actually show up, or will we find out fast that we've built a society that struggles with pressure, discipline, and conflict? So, Mike, if selective service got activated, would Gen Z fight or fold?
Oh, I think they would strongly fight.
Really?
No, fight going. Not fight as in go to fight. I mean, fight going. No, they'll be out. No, totally. First of all, I don't think that any chance of it happening, because one of the things that we have successfully kind of done in the United States is we have enough patriotism in much of the country. And I know sometimes we forget this because we maybe you and I spent too much time in places that have less patriotism, and I'm talking between the lines here. But we don't have a significant problem recruiting people to go into the armed forces. Now that could change, and over the years it has become more challenging during certain times. But we're not in a situation, particularly I think because we are morphing into a military that requires less people in the first place. So I think over time, some of that is taken care of. We have a very large population in the military right now, and it's probably adequate. So I don't think you're going to see any need for it. And as we go forward, it's just more and more people in a warehouse somewhere pushing buttons and controlling drones. So I just think that I mean, it's never going to take away, as you can see in Iran right now, it's never going to take away necessarily a need for a ground force. But I don't know.
So, Mike,
but no, I think they'll fight it. No, there's very little.
I'm only speaking about my time on Earth and my observation. I don't believe that the reason why we haven't had problems keeping troops is because of how high the patriotism is all over America. It's just a proven fact. If a person has options, they don't choose the military. It's the rare bird that is financially secure or has a good education or has some kind of something going on. There are people who do it.
Yeah.
But they're the rare bird.
Yep.
It's not patriotism that's the impetus. It's that you have such a large amount of people that have no future, whether it be
necessity.
Right. So that's if we
I don't disagree. I mean, there's and the government has done a fairly good job at marketing, college tuition and job placement and all the other things that go along with your related service. So, I mean, that's why I don't think it's an urgent situation. But I agree with you, Phil. There's definitely there is some patriotism involved, but there's a lot that isn't.
There's some, but I would say it's not even in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know people personally who did not have to join, who joined, but they weren't doing it for patriotism. I know somebody who joined that from a wealthy family, and it was part of his he wanted that to be part of his story before he got into politics.
Yep.
So there are people. There's not too many people who do it just because they love their country.
Yeah, I get it.
You're putting your life on the line. And back to the part about the children folding if a draft came up, I believe you'll have people going into Mexico, crossing the border into Mexico. I believe you'll have at a much higher rate than back in the 60s and 70s when we had the draft. I believe
I agree with that.
These kids aren't built like that. They are not built like that.
I agree with that. No.
So Rome reached a point where its own citizens were fighting its war. Its own citizens weren't fighting its wars anymore. They were paying outsiders, even people they had once defeated, to do it for them. And once that shift happens, something fundamental changes. Mike, if the people of a country won't fight for it, how long can it really last? And I'm really talking about just America.
Doesn't last.
But
I mean, it might linger for a while, but it's at the end of the day, if you're not willing to fight, it's not going to last. You can't just hire mercenaries. I mean, like you said, Rome. They tried it to a large extent. It's been being done in the Ukraine-Russia war. I'd argue it's being done in Iran and in the Middle East right now, because we're basically using other people to do stuff too, like Israel and even Iran's using Hezbollah and various people. So it's not self-sustaining.
London is the first example that comes to my mind, and they're even being exposed for that right now, because people are because of this Iran thing are starting to realize, oh, they really ain't got an army like that. They're basically ruling the world by paperworking people.
Yep.
And using us as the bully behind them. Right. Now that we're not the bully behind them, they're looking really weak.
Yep.
Does paying others to fight weaken your identity, whether they're successful or not? If it's a no, that's what I think is happening to London.
Yep.
So, Mike, we're sending 2,000 paratroopers while pushing a peace deal, saying the war basically won, and contrary to Trump's claim that talks with Iran were yielding great progress. Iran just put out its own peace plan, and it basically says, stop killing our people, guarantee no more wars against us, pay us reparations, and oh yeah, we control who moves through the Strait of Hormuz. Mike, at what point does that stop sounding like a ceasefire and start sounding like leverage by Iran?
Oh, it's totally leveraged by Iran. I mean, let's face where we are right now. I mean, not to sound like a late night comedian like Bill Maher or one of those guys said, they're joking around that Trump is talking to, the people in Iran, but nobody knows who he's talking to, and he's not sure who he's talking to, and we don't even know if the guy that we're talking to is in charge. So, I mean, the reality of this thing is that what's happening right now is a lose-lose. We can't win. This is my prediction. We can't win this. And the reason I say that is because we have boxed ourselves in. It's like painting yourself into a corner. And we now have successfully destroyed the shit out of Iran. Let's just be honest. We have bombed a lot of stuff there. They are a mess. We've killed they're still killing people. They killed another guy last night. We've killed almost all the leadership. And so now it's down to, probably colonels in the Revolutionary Guard that are running this thing. So, I mean, the people at the top, the generals, they're all gone. So where are we now? We're sending in ground forces, right? So we're bringing ground forces to the region. And we're talking about a lot of ground forces. I saw one estimate that said we had over 30,000 ground forces between what's coming from Japan, what's being sent from the United States, and what's already on the ground in Saudi Arabia, and it has been for years in that region. And I think, and I said this 3-4 weeks ago, the highest likelihood is that we invade Karg Island, right? We're going to go in and we're going to take over that island because it's pretty small. It would be fairly, I'm not going to say it's easy to do, but it would be a lot easier than going onto the mainland. The problem with the whole thing is that we have not successfully been able to take out their drones and their missile launching. We would lose a whole mess of guys trying to take that island. I think they're just going to they're going to bomb the shit out of them. So I mean, Iran is like a wounded lion. It's going to attack worse. Yeah, it's going to attack no matter what, even if it means blowing up their own shit. And that so you can't beat crazy. So this is why I say we're in a lose-lose. You're not beating crazy. And I don't know what so right now we've got a couple things going on. Let's just go with the objectives, and I'm not talking about Donald Trump's because I don't know if he knows what his objectives are. But what I think in general the objective is to make sure Iran doesn't get nukes, is to make sure that they don't have long range or even medium range missiles to hit the neighbors, and try to convert their government to something that is more friendly towards us. That would be our goals, and probably even more important than all of those, as we saw, and I don't know that we anticipated from the beginning, is to open the Sea of Hormuz so that we don't have this oil crisis going on around the world. We don't have the means to do this. How are we going to do that? We can't do it. First of all, you definitely can't do it from the air, so you can't do it without ground troops. We are not willing to send in. We're not sending in ground. I predict that nobody's supporting this. We're not invading them like we did in Iraq, or first of all, you couldn't. I mean, I heard somebody talking about that on the news the other day, comparing Iraq and Iran. You couldn't be talking about two different countries. I mean, the terrain, Iran is geographically very difficult, more similar to Afghanistan. Iran was like a flat desert. Iraq. There's, I don't know how many times, there's 15 times more people, I think, in Iran than Iraq. It's just a bigger population, more radicalized. I mean, there's so many, I could go on and on and on. We're not invading them. It's not happening. So how are we going to get them to open up the Sea of Hormuz? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't have an answer here. And if we do go into that island and we seize their oil ship, then you know what we're going to accomplish? Their oil is no longer going to leave there and go to China like it is right now. And now China's going to be in more of a crisis, which basically puts the rest of the world, including us, even in more of a crisis because there's even a lack of oil. That's a lose. I mean, taking out Iran's oil is a lose for us right now. You just saw it last week. Trump authorized being able to sell Iranian oil that was already on the water. Why? Because any oil is oil. So if somebody else can buy it, you're already seeing, I think, the Philippines and Pakistan, somewhere else, they're having some crises now because they have a shortage of oil already. We don't have that problem. So I had to mouth off on somebody on social media the other day. They posted, it was a friend of mine that was posting on, and they went to the gas station to fill up, and it was, and you're going to laugh, Phil, because you live in Washington, but they were bitching and moaning, and it's like, this is unsustainable. It's $5.40 a gallon or something. And I had to respond and go, oh, so what you're telling me is you got almost one of the cheapest gas prices in all of the world. Must feel pretty good. So, like, America is in a really good situation, although we don't like it. Our oil is still way cheaper than other places. So, in those places like Pakistan, like the Philippines, they can't afford, their cost of living is set up. They can't afford a raise in oil that you're seeing right now. We have the means, not everybody, but America as a whole has the means to sustain that. So we're not winning. I don't know how you're going to, do I think we should send ground troops in? Fuck no. Do I think we should invade the island? Fuck no.
So Mike,
I don't know what the answer is.
So Mike, you kind of already, you touched on what my main point is, and I spoke about this last week. America keeps trying to fight conventional wars with unconventional enemies.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just thinking, oh, we'll send troops over there to Hormuz and we'll just take it. And we're thinking about traditional strategies to overcome. And the main one that I'm thinking of that they can't overcome is, I could see Iran saying, okay, go ahead and invade. We'll blow up this whole island.
Yeah, that's what they're going to do.
Because we're thinking, oh, they'd never blow it up because they're losing these refineries and the oil and blah, blah. They'll just start over. They've started over from rocks so many times over the centuries.
Exactly. They're living they're like in caveman times as it is. Okay. So we're not seeing eye to eye. And if they could blow up their own shit with us in it and blow us up in the process, of course they're gonna do that.
Man, they'll call that the Day of Hormuz or something.
It's gonna hurt us way more than it's gonna hurt them.
Because we care about life. We care about life, and
it's gonna raise the price of fuel, which is what they're trying to do right now, anyways. So, I mean, they got us by the balls. Like, there's, I don't know what the answer is.
And after all is said and done, and nobody's really talking about this, everybody's talking about all of these oil ships just floating around in the water, but they're not mentioning how many ships have gotten their oil and shipping it out. What's his name?
There's some getting out because there was reports of people paying fees to get out and being let out. And Iran hasn't, by last I had checked, they were shipping just as much oil as they had been prior to the war out of the Strait of Hormuz, which, by the way, mostly
to Russia.
Yeah, exactly. So if we blew up their ability to do that, now China and Russia don't have oil, which on the surface might sound good. But what do you think that does? They're going to need it. So it drives up the price for everybody, including us. So it's a lose. It's a lose-lose. Not to mention the fact, I didn't say, if we do anything like that, they have said, and I don't have any reason based on what they've done so far to doubt it. They said they're going to attack Saudi Arabia and Jordan and other countries, attack their oil and attack their water resources. Well, how are we going to stop that? We can't look, like you said, Phil, they're living in the caveman times. They're running around with backpacks, with cars, with drones stuffed in the back, with missiles on the back of mopeds. We can't fight that. We don't know how to fight that. We're looking for launchers and Western military things and warehouses, and they're hiding shit in churches and libraries. And I mean, good luck with that.
Something I haven't been hearing about, and it may be a strategy, but not just Iran, Afghanistan, that whole region, all of those cultures are known for their tunnel digging and their making caves and mountains and stuff like that. And I haven't heard about any bombing of no caves or no tunnels or none of that. So they literally could have all their good stuff just sitting waiting for us still. I'm not.
Phil, let's be honest. They're so good at digging tunnels. And I think we've realized this now. And if you've been watching the news, you know that bombing that we did last year to take out their nukes, and we've done some of that this year. Their shit is so deep, our crap's not hitting it. We're blocking the entrance, so they can't get in there, but it's still down there. Because I've got pretty high confidence that they got a drone factory somewhere that's like 3,000 feet underground. You know they do. We haven't touched that. Bro. And the problem is, as soon as you start invading this island and we start sending our Marines and our landing forces in there, next thing you know, Mohammed is running into a cave. He's strapping a bunch of missiles on the backs of women and children on mopeds, sending them out, telling them to go to the street corner with the big rock and the cactus on the corner and fire away. So you're basically fighting terrorists, right? And let me remind everybody one more time. Every time the U.S. gets involved in this shit, we always think that we're always thinking like they're thinking like us. We don't share anything in common with them. Let me just say this a million times more. They're going to heaven when they get martyred, and they're getting virgins, and they're getting unlimited food, and they got dancing and sex all day long. You're never going to rationalize with this. This is crazy, okay? And it's like getting into a fist fight or a bar fight with the drunk crazy guy that's on drugs. He's strong. He doesn't give a shit about himself or anybody else. And you're never winning that fight. It's the same scenario we're in, right? I mean, this sucks.
So, Mike, Iran has made a point of saying any deal that they agree on, they would want war reparations, security guarantees, and usually, typically, the war reparations, they automatically come. So that's not a big ask. Security guarantees for oil that we're going to be sharing,
right?
That's not a big ask. But the sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz,
no way.
That's what we've really been fighting for.
Right.
We just took the stranglehold away from London and Lloyd's of London being able to secure it. We've basically taken control of the strait. We're not giving that up. So what happens with that? Is that just them following basic negotiating tactics and aiming high?
Well, I just think they're asking for it because they want to put tariffs in. They want to raise money. And like you said, rebuild to back the shit that we just bombed. And they're like, it's like a whack-a-mole. They are going to bounce right back. It might take 5 years, it might take 10 years, it might take whatever. But remember, you've got a government, you've got a mechanism in place in Iran that does not really care about their people, right? So they don't, that is not how that infrastructure is set up. So it doesn't really make a difference how long it takes. They're going to just simply get back to business. And business for them is controlling their people, threatening their neighbors, trying to kill Israel, and developing nuclear weapons. I think at the end of the day, that's what they really want to do.
And you're not making the leaders uncomfortable. I keep mentioning London because that's a very strong connection. If you go there, half the property is owned by these dudes. Their sons are driving around and going to school and everything.
Yes.
So
let's talk about that for 1 second. So like every other country, Iran has a class system, and their upper class in Iran, for those of you that are not aware of this, live overseas.
Yeah.
Because it's such a shithole, right? So they live overseas. And so many of these people live in England, they live in America, they live in Switzerland, they live in France, they live in other places. They're well educated. Look at even some of the leadership in Iran. Very well educated, speak multiple languages, communicate. So this is like more of a you got to realize this is not a democracy. It's not a dictatorship. And this is, I think, where America is misplaced. We're treating it as if it's a dictatorship, and it's not. It's a system. And and every time you take out a piece of the system, it's like in Star Trek. What was that? The Borg. It's like it's like the Borg. You take out one piece, right? You take out one piece of the system. It don't matter. It's a collective. And I think that's the best way to actually think about it. Iran is a collective. They successfully have put in maybe the only government in the world like this, where it's a collective. So if you take out the supreme leader, doesn't really matter. Still functions. Take out the next 8 guys, still really functions. And we're seeing this happen in reality. Because right now, we don't even know. I mean, 3 weeks have gone by. We still don't know if there's a supreme leader or not. I don't think the guy's alive. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
And Mike, and an Iranian lady educated me on, we've talked about the protesters and supporting the protesters and everything. And she was saying how that the protesters may want some first world amenities, but they really don't want change.
Correct.
And
because
that even the people that are protesting, it's a very religious country.
Correct.
So even the protesters, they still are biased.
They want McDonald's, and they want Starbucks, and they want like a nice television set, but they don't necessarily want the change. You're right. They're okay with the current system because it's based on, like you said, their religion. They just want some, I'll call it amenities that make it nicer. And by the way, and people are like, well, how come they're not standing up and acting up now? Well, for one, we're bombing the shit out of them. They're afraid. They're in their house. They got something over the top of their head. They're not going to come out on the street. So and if anything, we've weakened. I'd argue we've weakened their government to a point where it's even more dangerous, and quite frankly, more dangerous to them. So they knew what they were dealing with the prior leadership. Now that there's all new people and most of them are dead, they don't know what they're dealing with. So they're going to be scared. This is a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose-lose.
Well, I think in the next 2 weeks, we will know what direction for sure everything is going. We will not be predicting no more.
Probably not.
We will have ended our talks on whether or not we're going to continue with the ceasefire, and the 2,000 additional troops should be there.
I'm going to give you my prediction right now, Phil.
Oh, go for it.
I'm not saying I do this. I believe that we are going to attempt to invade that island.
Absolutely.
I strongly believe that that's our plan. I think the negotiation shit that they're talking about right now is just delaying the process, waiting for everybody to be in place.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen during the negotiations.
Yeah. I think it's a mistake, but I think that's what we're going to do.
Iran thinks that they're biding their time, and America is biding their time.
Yep.
This whole thing is a strategy.
Yep.
So, Mike, is there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
No, I got fired up like 3 or 4 times in one episode. We may set some new record here. So, no, I mean, it's not all bad, guys. It's not all bad. There's some good stuff going on. I took my truck out the other day, went out in the desert. It was beautiful. Getting ready in my brain to come up to Arizona to see Phil and Flagstaff and do some Overland Expo. And,
can't wait to see you, bro.
I know.
We'll talk about it offline.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.